Hey everyone, welcome back to City Skylines, to the Aurelia city. Last time we started a completely new part of the city between the airport and the downtown, right here near the river. We built the waterfront with a lot of open spaces, some shops, offices, and so on. I said last time that this was mostly just a preparation for some future projects, one of which we will build today. It's going to be a tram transfer station between the line that goes over the bridge that we built last time to the airport, and a completely new line that will probably just go parallel to the river in the future. Both lines go on different levels, so it's a very good opportunity for some vertical design. So let's go do it. We are going to start right away with building the rough shape or rough outline of the transfer station because, like I said, it's going to be on two levels, which means that the second level is going to have some sort of an outline and some fake surfaces on top of that. Now, we have these pedestrian paths. Obviously, one goes all the way to the bridge that we built last time on one side of these roads, and theoretically, you could even walk all the way to the airport on this pedestrian path, or maybe to the offices that are near the airport if you work there. Now, this second path that's over here is going to just connect, and basically it's going to end at the station. I'm using these borders, these railings, to mark the outline of the second level. I decided to use this, I think it's a residential building, but in this place it might be, some sort of an office or a shop or whatever. It just looks nice, it's kind of rounded, so that's very cool. And it's just going to form, again, an interesting element in this place, right? So I'm again using these tracks, like light rail tracks, because they look very nice, and especially the station platforms look very nice. They are very suited for this kind of a light rail, I suppose, stations. Even though the second level is probably not a light rail, it's going to use the washing machine trams that are, smaller and more suited to like surface level or street level, transportation or something like that. But on the middle level of this place, because this place is not just the levels of the trams, but it obviously has the plaza, which is right by the river. So the lower tracks are on the middle level of this entire area, let's say. So on the middle level, we have another line that I haven't really showed in here, but it's going to be like a fully, like a full light rail, okay? So it's going to be some sort of a line that's going to go parallel to the river. It's probably going to have stations slightly further apart from each other, even though when I say this, I already am planning another station that's going to be somewhat close to this one, but hopefully later I would like to space the stations a bit more, because that's going to be just a light rail, similar to the one that we built on the opposite side of the city. If you remember, we built that in that medium residential area, which actually turned out looking nice, very fitting mode of transportation in there. So something similar to this place. They are not going to be the same lines. These are going to be completely separate lines. All right, so while I was explaining that, I already created the shape of the second level, and what's left now is to create these surfaces. So at first I decided to go with gravel on both surfaces, actually, on the lower and the upper. On the upper one, it's going to stay like it is, like this, because I didn't really want to put any kind of different color on this level. Definitely not pavement, because that would just not look very good. I think that from now on, I'm not really going to use pavements that much for larger surfaces in the city, because they just don't look good. The pavement is pretty much everywhere else on the sidewalks and stuff. So putting it on some larger surfaces is just not going to be all that good. And like I explained in the previous video, we now have that very nice feature with procedural objects. So I can just use decals for surfaces, like freely, much easier than it was before. So that's it. That's pretty much the rough shape. And from now on, it's just going to be detailing this place. So today, this place is not really going to be all that huge, but I think the details are, really going to turn out looking good. So we're going to start with some of these elevators. Now, we have this tall building, this tower, right by the bridge, and I decided that it's actually going to have entrances on all levels of this entire place. So it's going to have the level with the top tram connected into the building. So that's where the elevator was there. And it's also going to have connections from the middle level where the light rail is going to be, and the lower plaza level as well. It's obviously not going to be connected directly to the building, but it's going to have pedestrian paths going through the building so that people are going to appear to be going inside the building. But in reality, they are just going to be using the pedestrian paths to move between the different levels. Now, this place is also going to serve as some sort of a pedestrian walk path or walkway through this area. So even if you don't exactly want to board any of the trams or light rail trains, you might still use this place to just walk around, because later I'm going to delete some of the sidewalks for the lower streets in here, because they are going to be kind of busy with cars, and it would just make sense to completely bypass that for pedestrians. So if you are, for example, walking, I don't know, from the opposite side of the river, because you can cross the bridge on that pedestrian path, you might use this entire place to kind of walk around, even if you have no intention of using the public transport. So that's why I'm putting all the elevators around the place, a lot of different stairs everywhere to just connect everything and create as many possibilities for people to use. And later, obviously, it's going to be all functional. Now, these walls that I'm doing here are going to be kind of serving as supports, obviously, for the second level, because it needs to have all kinds of pillars or walls to just make it look more believable. Some of these walls are also going to form some interesting shapes, elements, decorations, basically, for this area, like this one. This is going to be basically a planter. I'm later going to put a tree into it. It's going to look really, really good. Now, we are on the opposite side of that main road that goes from the bridge, and in here I definitely needed some sort of a connection for the pedestrians into that bridge level for the pedestrian path. And I decided to do this very nice, like a spiral path. So I did it using this path, the same path that we had before. And by the way, doing these spirals, I did them in the Rockdale city, like a long time ago. And obviously back then we didn't have the Electrix's road tools, right? Or network tools. I'm not sure what they're called, but you probably know it. And right now it's super easy to create these, because you can just pick all the nodes on the spiral and make them smoother like this. So it's super easy, basically just doing a few clicks, and it's very, very smooth right now. Well, it's perfectly smooth, actually. It's not just smooth, it's perfect. Now I'm also putting these elevators down through the middle, because obviously this path might be used even by disabled people, or handicapped people, or people with maybe like bicycles or whatever, if they don't want to use the spiral for whatever reason. If you don't want to use the path, you can just use the elevator. I think that I didn't make the elevator functional, because I just really wanted to have that path go kind of into the elevator, like clip through it, but make it only as a decoration, because obviously people in City Skylines, they don't really care. They're just going to use the path anyway. So that's going to be better, because realistically the pedestrians would only use the elevator, because it would be a lot shorter path. So it's a good thing that the elevator is not working, because later when there's going to be buildings everywhere around this place and on the other side of the river, people are going to be walking through that path, and it's just going to look very good in the cinematics, right? Every time people are using something in the game, it's just looking much better, because it's alive, right? Now, underneath the support of the bridge, of the support of that entire structure of the bridge, there's going to be this office building or shop building. I'm not sure what's going to be, but it's made of these brick blocks, right? These are very nice buildings, because you can do absolutely anything with these. I'm kind of demonstrating that in here using procedural objects. When I made one side of these buildings without windows, I basically just made the windows hidden and made it into basically a brick wall that's just going to have the same brick texture as the rest of this block. And I used it even in these hard to see places underneath all these all these structures that are on top of it. And this actually has a very, very good reason. And we are probably getting very close to that. So let's talk a bit more about it. Now, I talked about it many times before that I want to have, that I really want to do some sort of like first-person tram rides through the city. Now, it's probably still a long way for at least the first ride, because I don't have a single line that's complete in the city. The lines kind of go from nowhere to nowhere. I didn't really build like a proper terminus station yet in Aurelia. At least I don't think so. I think I prepared one on the island, on the river island, but it's not finished anyway. And definitely not for this new line that we just built that we just started in the previous episode. But anyway, there's going to be a time when these lines are going to be finished, right? So it's only making sense that at this point, when I'm building these projects, I'm already going to make them look complete, even from the perspective of the tram. So, if I was doing some cinematics, and I will do cinematics at the end of this episode, just showing this structure from the top, then obviously it's not going to matter, because you won't see underneath that top level for the tram station. But if I'm going to do the first person rides, then it's going to be visible. So right now I'm already taking care of all these places that you cannot normally see, but you will definitely see them from the first person view, right? So that's why I'm taking care of all these holes in the terrain and everything, just putting some details everywhere along the track, right? And later I'm also going to make sure that the fake surface on top of this place is actually going to have a texture even when looking from the bottom, because that's a problem for the ploppable asphalt mod surfaces, the surfaces that come with that mod, because they only have the texture on the top side. If you were to convert them by procedural objects and rotate them around, then they would just be invisible. They don't have anything on the bottom surface, and that's a problem for these kinds of surfaces. It's especially a problem if you remember when we did those parks, those elevated parks, those kind of island parks, because they are made of the grass and they don't have anything underneath them. So that's something that I will have to correct in the future. And this is exactly what I was trying to talk about. So I'm using these surfaces. I'm not sure what they're called, but they are basically like blocks of surfaces. They are not just like 2D models, but they are actually these blocks, right? So they do have a surface, or they do have a texture on all sides, even from the bottom, and I can just use them to fill these places. It was not really all that super critical to make it look pretty from the bottom. What was needed was only the fact that I just needed to have some sort of a ceiling right there. And right now it's done and it's looking really good. I think I made a couple of shots in the time lapse, right? You could have seen me go with the camera underneath that top level, and everything was just looking how it's supposed to look from underneath there. Now, that's almost done, really. So all that's left is some detailing that's just going to make this place look more complete. And that's definitely surfaces. So, like I said, I don't really want to use pavement anymore for any of these bigger surfaces. I'm mostly going to use just these decals. Now, again, I don't want to make the same surface absolutely everywhere. So, for example, on that plaza that we built last time, I did those red-orange bricks. In here, on the second level, we're gonna do some sort of these tiles, white tiles, and on the top level, we're gonna keep the gravel. So there's gonna be a very nice contrast between the levels. It's definitely going to be much easier to distinguish the levels. If you just see it for the first time, you're immediately going to recognize the different levels and outlines of the levels. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. But, it's just looking better. More variety is always nice with these large surfaces. And this kind of detailing, very important. Some of these railings right next to the stairs, all kinds of planters really to just complete or hide some inconsistencies with some connections between the walls, the stairs, the buildings, stuff like that. Larger surfaces, I'm going to always put some planters on them, right? We need to break them apart using the planters or kind of make them smaller. Realistically, the people are only going to follow the paths. In real life, they would just walk all around the place, but in the game, they need to follow certain paths, and they're just going to follow some, smaller paths. I'm not sure how to better explain it, but it means that they are never going to utilize the entire area. So it's only better to put the planters in here, break the space, and just make it more believable with the movement of the pedestrians. So, and it looks better with the green stuff in the middle anyway. Now, this is a remnant from the last episode. I was saying that I'm going to complete this interchange, or especially the intersection part where it just connects to the ramps, connect to the surface street. So that's exactly what I'm doing right here. Now, this is the standard vanilla, or maybe network extension road, the 4-lane road, with the parking lots, or with the parking lanes on the sides. I actually really don't want to use these roads absolutely everywhere. I really don't like how they have that parking lane on the sides. I would much better prefer some sort of a planter, like a green area on the sides of these streets, or maybe just a wider sidewalk so I can detail my own stuff there. But I seem to not really have those kinds of roads. I'm not really sure if they are part of the network extensions or something like that, but I'm probably going to have to search Workshop for some better roads than these, because these are just the standard roads, but they're not exactly fitting in some areas. Anyway, you can already see with these lane connectors how is this place going to work. There's basically not going to be any left turns. Well, there's going to be the left turn. Is it left? Yeah, it is left. Left turn from that ramp, this one that I'm doing in here, but it's just going to be a one lane, and it's going to go into that separate lane. You can probably see that what's going on here. Don't need to really explain it too much. Basically, the lanes that are not used in this place are covered with these planters and with the curbs, so that it's going to look much slimmer, the entire intersection, and it's just a good excuse to really put more green stuff around this place, because I don't think that we are in the downtown anymore. We are maybe on the edges of the downtown. This is definitely going to be closer to the edge of the city. We are close to the airport. The airport is definitely the edge of the city. There's not going to be anything past the airport in the direction, from the city. So it just makes sense that this place is going to be a bit greener than the rest of the city, right? So, like I said in the previous episode, I didn't want to have this interchange very pronounced. I just wanted to have it very, small, not really that tall, and cover all the rest of the areas around it with trees, some decals like these dirt decals and stuff like that. And even when putting the pedestrian paths along the main road that's going to the bridge, it definitely made the interchange look almost invisible. There's just a couple of ramps here and there, but there's the pedestrian paths that are obviously white, which just makes them more pronounced in that place compared to the very dark roads, and it's just overall looking like there's no interchange there, which was the goal, which was definitely the goal for this place. A very critical part of the entire process of building this station, and that's obviously making it functional with all these pedestrian paths. Now, I'm definitely cutting it a lot in here because this took a really long time, even though, I've done this many times before, so it's not all that super difficult for me at this point. Now, it's a bit complicated right here in that corner because that's where the elevator is, and I'm already having the roads even for the bottom level here and the top level. So, that was kind of difficult to untangle it after I built it at first. And as you can see, after that was done, I just converted it all into the invisible roads because it's just going to be invisible paths through the place. So it's going to look very natural. It's going to look very natural how people are just walking around. By the way, that little place right there near the tower, between the tower and the bridge, that might be some sort of a viewing area. You're just gonna have a very nice view of the little river bay from that place. You're obviously going to see all the towers, all the high rises on the other side of the river. So overall, this place is actually turning out to be really good, and it's also having some sort of elements that I didn't necessarily plan right from the start, but it just happened. So that's always very, very nice. Now, you can see that this place is definitely combining elements from places that I already did in the city. Probably the closest transfer station or just tram station that comes to mind is probably the one next to the shopping center, or in front of the shopping center, right next to the river, which is very similar to this one. It also has the elevated kind of organic shaped second level, or however you want to call it, and it's just following a very similar style. I've talked about this in many previous episodes, that I really do want to have the city follow similar styles in some of these projects, because why not? It's just the one city. It makes sense that it's going to use similar elements, and this is the end result. So for this general area, I decided that we're going to do like a cinematic shot of before and after from the same angle, from the same camera angle. I have it saved. Every time I finish a part, I'm just going to record like a static shot of that place, because it will look good after we are done with this general area in like, I don't know, 10 to 15 episodes, to just put all of these before and after shots together and just have like a 15 transitions, or whatever episodes it's going to take, right beside each other, and it's going to just show the progress that we made. It's hopefully going to be quite interesting. Anyway, as you can see, this place is very alive, which was surprising, because this new light rail line, it's right now having only 2 stations, and one station that I'm not showing here is just like a fake station, so that people have like a motivation to actually use that train. But even then, this place is very busy. There's a lot of people walking everywhere. All the paths that I created are used, which is always a nice thing. Every time you do something like that, people are going to use it. This spiral, I think I did not show it in the time lapse, but I put those pillars on the side of it, not really through the middle, but on the sides of it, which I really like. That little corner with that spiral path is a really nice place. It's kind of a tiny detail. It's definitely not the main focus of this area, because that's the trams, of course, but it still is a nice place. So as you can see, people are, well, you can't really see that, but people are going to use this line, the top line, to go to the airport. Right now, the airport is, I think I even said that when we built that airport station, that it's a terminus station for 2 lines, this line and another line that's going to be made in the future. So people can, for example, use this transfer station to go to the airport. They will probably use it to just, walk around the waterfront or stuff, or just use, some of these shops, or go to the offices. I said in the previous video that I would really like to have this area more residential. So this light rail and definitely the tram on the top is also going to have, more stations further towards the airport, or towards the terminal airport, where we're going to have some residential buildings. Obviously some terraforming to shield it from the airport itself, but that's all for the future projects. Anyway, guys, thank you for watching today's episode of Aurelia. That's all for today. Well, I was about to say enjoy the cinematics, but we've already seen them. Anyway, guys, I'll see you in the next video. If you liked today's video, then definitely put a like underneath it, put some comments down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. Take care, and goodbye.